No matter what, there's always fragments of silicon.
The dumb. Ow.
You
God
did
damn
it
it.
again, didn't you?
Yep. I did the dumb.
That was going out on the stream.
It was, but it was also going into my headphones.
Ah, okay.
Good job.
Fuck me. I'm sure Potato Sniff is somewhere clapping.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you kind of did, didn't you?
Alrighty. Now it should be fixed.
All right.
Let's try this again.
Okay. We can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep on sweeping. There's still fragments of silicon.
All right. Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Pardon our dust. Things have gotten messy over the past week.
Yeah, that's my fault.
I mean, it's just mostly your fault. Like, some of it is on the guests, or let's say the shifting schedules and cancellations of guests.
Mm-hmm.
Like, more than anything else. But yeah, let's get to you, Petty, because you've once again had a adventure-filled week.
Sure, let's call it an adventure in hell. So last week was not great. Thursday, my eyes started hurting worse than it was last Wednesday, to the point that Friday afternoon I ended up going to the ER, and that was an adventure. First it started with, before I went to the ER, I took a picture and sent it to my primary care doctor, being like, basically asking, like, hey, is there anything you can give me for this? The eye drops the other doctor gave me weren't helping. And you know it's bad when your primary care doctor calls and is concerned. And basically says, you can probably go to the ER, on a Friday afternoon. So yeah, I went to the ER. I have a pretty gnarly eye infection. So, to the point that I have some damage to my cornea.
Was that actually determined?
Yeah. But the extent that they won't know until the infection is cleared up, / I see my optometrist on next Wednesday.
Mm.
So, it's one of those things that might be, some slight damage that they may just have to put like an artificial lens over with some medicine in it and it'll heal up on its own. It could involve surgery that, cut away unhealthy bits of my eye.
Is this stuff that they said, or you
Googling that I did?
Okay. Like, that is an important distinction.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, so far, because I can still see from what I can tell and what the doctor said, I shouldn't necessarily be lose my eye, which is a plus. And as long as I can still see, that's generally a good thing.
Generally, yes. I mean, how blurry are things? How blurry is your vision?
It's less blurry now, but it's still extremely light sensitive.
I mean, improvement is still improvement?
Yeah. Like, in a semi-dark room, I could probably do okay without, because I have some clip-on sunglasses and an eye patch I've been using. Because Walmart lights are a killer, and so is the sun. So yeah, I've been using those to, try and protect my eyes as much as possible, because I've been also having a little bit of issue with my right eye. Nowhere near to the point of being as bad with the left. And they also did say make sure to use, because they gave me an eye ointment at ER. And they basically told me, yeah, use it on both eyes just in case. Because the last thing I need is the infection to move to the other eye and, become a drug-resistant superbug. Because that's not good. They're definitely taking your eye levels of bad.
Yeah, it's like, it would be bad for all of us if you went blind.
Yeah. But yeah, not really been doing a whole lot of gaming, obviously, what with being extremely light sensitive and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because right now the Final Fantasy XIV is doing the Rising event, which is the celebration of 2.0. Hopefully it's, my eyes cleared up before, that ends, because I'd really like to actually take part in the event.
Well, did they give you a timeline of how long you take the eye drops?
The eye drops, not really. They more just said keep using it till you follow up with optometry.
Well, here's another question. Did they manage to identify the infection?
If they did, they didn't tell me.
That's probably not good, because
Yeah.
like when my finger got infected, they managed to identify what kind of infection it was. It's kind of important because of the drugs used.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is just because of they're having trouble even just getting the measure, like there's a little device they had to like measure my eye and stuff. So just even getting that close kind of hurt.
Understandable, but it's
And,
more
yeah,
a virus versus
bacteria. Yeah, I think the
stuff
stuff they gave me is for a bacterial infection.
Yeah.
So I guess it might be bacteria, or it might have been just one of the stronger things they had on hand, just to make sure.
I guess we find out next week.
Yep. So yeah, if there's no show next week, you know why.
Right.
Well, I guess that was more for the audience, but yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we'll contemplate something for next week.
Yeah. Even if it's just me screaming.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, yeah, not a whole lot happening, because eye infections suck. Don't get them, kids. Leaf blowers are the enemy. Down with leaf blowers.
Right. So, Alex, you got to follow up that.
Not too much going on here. My parents are getting back, I think, tomorrow, assuming everything goes according to plan. House is still shipshape. I was a little bit underprepared for Pathfinder last week, but that's okay, because our campaign is set near a kind of a mega dungeon type thing, and I had planned for us to go down below the 5th floor for the first time, but everybody else in the party decided, or at least everybody who was there, decided they didn't want to spend the money to get a skip to the 5th floor, so I just had to improvise relatively easy stuff on the first 3 floors. So that gave me a little bit more time to work on stuff, which hopefully I'll have some time to do this week. Video game wise, nothing too much special. I've been playing Splatoon 3, picked up Tears of the Kingdom again a bit. I've been trying to find I've been using a map to find all of the sign guy locations because I want to get all of the paraglider cloths because I like collecting things. And the reward for that is a paraglider cloth.
And this is why we can't let Gulix play TCGs.
That's why I only play one and not that much.
All right.
Alan.
I do play the Digimon TCG, and try to collect cards for that, but like I try not to go overboard. Anyway, and I think we have some big stuff coming up soon. I think the 7-star Mewtwo in Scarlet and Violet starts soon, and possibly. So I know Splatoon has a bunch of big stuff coming up. So
I thought Mewtwo started last week, but I could be wrong. I
No, it
obviously
hasn't
haven't
started
played
yet.
it in a while because of the eye.
yeah, I think it starts tomorrow.
Fun.
But yeah, anyway, I know Splatoon has a bunch of stuff coming relatively soon, at least. I did manage to catch up and complete the catalog before the end of the season, though, so that's good. You can get the stuff that you get from the catalog apparently afterwards if you either by getting another catalog after you finish the previous catalog, or I think you can get previous stuns from the shell out gacha machine, but it's easier to just finish the catalog, especially since it's not actually that hard to finish the catalog. You only need to get like 1 or 2 catalog levels per day. I think it's like 1. And well, it's a little bit more than 1, and you basically get 90% of a catalog level for winning 1 match every day. The only reason why I was having a hard time is because Zelda happened this season.
Right.
And I think that's about all I got.
All right. I guess it's my go. And, well, we've officially entered peak hurricane season. So, you know.
Oh yeah, there's one coming towards your way, isn't there? I don't think it's gonna hit you, but it's.
Yeah, I was about to address that. Idala.
Yeah.
Idala. Like, like that's already passed and made landfall, and that hit up around the Panhandle.
So I imagine you got splashed with some rain from it, but that's probably about it.
My area, yeah. Like,
see, I know geography. I'm not like a typical American.
Also, I'm inland, so flooding was less of a concern.
Yeah.
Also, surprisingly, my residence is on a hill, which is exceedingly rare in Florida.
I was going to say, a hill in Florida? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like, believe me, you don't have to tell me. This is extremely flat land.
It's buried on the bones of the dead. Wait, no, hold on.
But yeah, so long and short of it, peak time for hurricanes. So gonna be under that for the next month or so. In terms of games, been playing various things. Also, a note for the game reviews. We will be making adjustments as we deal with Petty Fan's eye infection. And how long that goes. But that's about it for the news this week.
Woo.
All right, so since we do not have a guest today, it's a double topic this week. Starting off with the Xbox 360 Marketplace / the Xbox 360 Live Arcade. Because, in case you missed the news, the Xbox 3 Marketplace is going to go offline next year, July 29th, 2024. You will no longer be able to buy games or DLC, specifically for the Xbox 360 console, the Xbox 360 Marketplace. Now, this is a bit different than when Nintendo turns the lights off of one of their stores, because there is backwards compatibility with the Xbox One and the Xbox Series, the Xbox 360. But the problem is, not every Xbox 360 game got that backwards compatibility.
Right. Be it from lost devs or just licensing failures.
Right. Mind you, the Xbox the Xbox 360 ecosystem has seen many delistings. In fact, it was one of the origin points of the concerns over digital games.
Not
When
unfounded, mind you, but yes.
In a way, it did. Because what people know as the Xbox Live Arcade isn't the original Xbox Live Arcade. It's the Xbox 360 Live Arcade, especially listed on Wikipedia, because there was a previous Xbox Live Arcade. It's not well remembered, and I'm not sure how well documented it is, but there was an Xbox Live Arcade for the original Xbox. Like the one that was released in 2001. But let's just say that was a lot more limited. In that it only got 27 titles.
Right.
But the Xbox 360 Live Arcade started out as an extension of the original Xbox Live Arcade. And by that I mean the Xbox Live Arcade was meant as the small downloads forum.
Right.
Because it might be one of those things that's perceptions might be lost to the annals of time already. Because like the heyday of the Xbox Live Arcade was longer than you think. Because the Xbox 360 had a lifespan of 2005 to at least 2013. The launch of the Xbox One, and there were some years where it trucked on side the Xbox One. But the Xbox 360's lifespan, 7 years. Which was unusual for a console at the time. The average life cycle of a console was 5 years. Like maybe a little more, a little less, but 7 full years. That's a much more modern standard. And going back to 2000, the era of like 2005, 2000, that in the state of digital distribution, like the state was much, much smaller. I mean that literally. Because when the Xbox 360 launched, the idea of launching retail games literally wasn't there.
Yeah, I believe your cap was like 700 megabytes.
Oh no. Much smaller.
For the 360?
Yep. The initial cap 50 megabytes.
Fuck.
And there's a reason for this. This goes
Memory
back to
cards, that's right.
yes. Because the Xbox 360 when it first launched had two different versions. One with a hard drive and one without. This is because Microsoft got really, really burned on putting a hard drive in every original Xbox.
Mm-hmm. Especially at the time, 8 gig hard drives were not cheap.
No. I'm trying to remember when exactly Xbox 360 games were able to be downloaded. But I do
that
remember
was a relatively late edition. That was like maybe like a couple years before the announcement of the Xbox One, before you could like download full retail titles.
yeah, like I want to say like somewhere like 2009, 2011, somewhere around that.
Yeah, it was
span
a
of
really
time.
late thing because that's when they just released being able to plug in a USB drive.
Yeah, I mean that's all. That's also around the time when Xbox 360 hard drives got exponentially bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you could get like 300 gig Xbox 360s. You know, the kind of thing where you would be able to house, because a 300 gig hard drive would have been more than adequate to house quite a number of Xbox 360 titles.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't remember, the 360 were on slightly reconfigured DVDs. I think they were 10 gig DVDs instead of the regular, like 5 to 7.
Something like that, but yeah, it's like your average Xbox 360 game wasn't clocking in at more than like 8 to 10 gigs.
Yeah.
Like
Also, game file sizes didn't get super ridiculously huge until like the last 5 or so years.
Yeah.
Well, that's because we got much bigger hard drives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't have to compress data as much.
Well, and also they weren't
Yeah,
packing...
but they also forgot. But also, a lot of people seem to have forgotten how to like make things compact.
Well, they also, before they like uncompressed high-res files were a separate download. Now they're baked in with the system.
Right. Like, but yeah, going back to like the launch of the Xbox 360, the file size was 50 megabytes because that is how much a single memory card could hold. Like you could hold one Xbox Live Arcade game, one launch, because you know the intent of the Xbox Live Arcade. Well, it's in the name. It was an attempt to recapture the vigor of the golden age of arcades, because the because the titles that were seen in the very early days of the Xbox Live Arcade were arcade ports, small downloadable titles from like PopCap, and like original titles that kept in that spirit. But very quickly, the ambitions of developers outstripped the file sizes. I think like just a year in, we got the port of the Castlevania Symphony of the Night to the Xbox 360 Live Arcade.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when we got the first bump to 250 megabytes.
Yeah, because that was when they discontinued the no hard drive versions.
Possible, but it's also because of the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Network.
Mm-hmm.
Because I distinctly remember the game Bionic Commando Rearmed. Like, they were trying to hold that to the 50 MB standard, and Capcom flat out told Microsoft that, okay, but it's not going to look as good as the PlayStation 3 version, which doesn't have these limitations. Or it could have been like from 250 to another. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember this limitation being overcome by that game. And speaking of Bionic Commando Rearm, that was one of 5 titles of the first Xbox Live Arcade Summer of Arcade. If you remember this promotional series.
Mm-hmm.
The first event was this was in the summer of 2008. You got Geometry Wars Retro Evolved 2, Braid, considered to be one of the most important and influential, indie Xbox Live Arcade titles of all time. Bionic Commando Rearmed, Galaga Legions, and Castle Crashers. 5 games of such high quality that Microsoft crafted an entire promotion around. Other things to mention about the Xbox Live Arcade, the Xbox 360 ecosystem, is this is also around the time when, for some reason, Microsoft and Nintendo were dealing in funny money.
Yes, the fucking point system can go to hell.
Yeah.
I assume there was a policy reason for that, but
it was some countries did weird things that they had to basically use points instead of actual currency.
It was also insidiousness because 100 points did not equal $1.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the actual conversions, but you had to spend a bit, like it was a bit more or less to get like 500 or 1,000 or 1,500. They came in like bulks of 500 points.
I think Nintendo kept the costs 1-to-1, but also made it very, very difficult to not have some left over.
Yeah, if you weren't buying directly with a card, yeah.
Yeah, I know it was not the case with Microsoft points.
Yeah. With Microsoft, you could not direct pay. You had to buy a set amount of points.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the points bundle, you would always have, like, extra points left over. And it was like more money spent, or like there was some calculation.
It's to make you either waste money or feel like you're getting a discount on the next thing, so you're more inclined to buy it. Or
it's all Skinner box marketing stuff. But on the other hand, having extra points around wasn't the worst thing in the world. In case you wanted to buy that copy of, say, Uno for 500 Microsoft points.
Or like a map pack or an add-on.
Yeah. And yeah, that's another thing about the Xbox 360 marketplace. It was the first, it was one of the first, not the first, because the PC and even the original Xbox Live allowed for downloadable content. It's just that was a lot more limited on the original Xbox because of infrastructure issues. But it did happen. It's like the original Xbox Live Arcade. It was a lot more limited, but it happens. And the Xbox Live Arcade and the Xbox 360 Marketplace, it was one of the pioneers of digital distribution, especially since it had a 1-year head start on the PlayStation Network.
Well, I guess the important thing to know is it's not just game stuff you could download. You could download videos, trailers.
That all came later. Once again, the Xbox Live, the Xbox 360 saw a lot of evolution.
It was very ahead of its time for,
Yeah.
Words
when I think of video on demand, I think of like Kinect era Xbox 360. Because this was the forefront of the modern age, both the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. To a lesser extent, the Wii, but the Wii is its own conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've had this conversation before.
Yeah. Well, it's because Microsoft introduced the account system. Once again, I know Sony also had it, but the PlayStation 3 launched a year later, so the nod by default goes to Microsoft on a lot of this.
Yeah, hell, they even had the account system in the original Xbox.
Yeah. And there's also the already lost segment of the marketplace. That is the Xbox Live indie titles.
Some of them did get roped into arcade, but a lot of them are just gone.
I see someone got preserved, but it is weird that Sony is going to be the last storefront standing. That's basically because they got bullied into keeping their PlayStation 3 store alive.
Yeah, just because specifically because it piggybacks off the Vita store, and people are still making games for the Vita.
I think that stopped officially.
Yeah, it's finally stopped, but at the time, people were still making Vita games.
Yeah, what I know is that at press time, Sony has not announced the reclosure of those storefronts.
Yeah. I think they closed in EU, though.
I'm saying, that's the PSP store.
Oh, that's PSP, yeah.
I'm like... but what I'm saying is the Vita and PlayStation 3 stores are still up, and Sony hasn't announced a imminent closure.
Yeah.
Whereas like Nintendo, first chance they fucking get, they're closing a store.
Yeah. We went through, 2 stores? No, 3.
3. Yeah. Technically 4 if you want to count the Wii Virtual Console and WiiWare as separate services.
I don't.
5.
It makes me too sad.
No. 5. DSiWare.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
I know. I almost forgot that was the thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't that much for DSiWare compared to the other ones.
There was a lot there. It's just, it was all shit.
And a lot of it was Japan-centric.
I suppose, but just really watch the Scott the Woz episode on DSiWare to understand why people don't really remember it, at all.
Well, the DSi honestly should barely have existed, but that's just my personal opinion.
It barely did?
Valid.
No, seriously, there were 6 games that used the DSi functionality. That was not worth the exchange of a GBA slot. That's why I never got a DSi.
I got one because it had a cool art design on it.
I said, fuck you, Nintendo. You're I'm keeping that GBA slot. Never got it. I got rid of all my GBA games, but I kept that. Anyway, maybe Microsoft will change their mind or more preservation efforts. We still got a year before this happens, more or less. But it is once again disheartening, because the fears that were coming up, like even I remember this happening at the time, are coming true, have come true, because the digital landscape is disappearing, at least in terms of official accessibility. Once again, this started with the original Xbox Live Arcade. Because here's the problem. You want to know what we lost with the original Xbox Live Arcade, the original Xbox? The first console downloadable games.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't
Which is only getting more severe as more and more things are distributed digitally.
Right, because with the Xbox Live indie title, WiiWare, every major digital service has games that were only released for that. Now, in the case of games that were retail games that were released digitally, yeah, those are going down too. But they were released on a disc, but those might have other problems attached to it. Because let's not forget that the Xbox 360 is the first console that had updates.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could show you guys the true glory of the Blades UI.
Getting updates is not necessarily going down at the same time. It depends on whether or not other online things are.
Yeah, because I could still update my 3DS, but
Right, but this is not. This has been another concern about modern, or even the last few generations, because Xbox 360 gaming is not modern.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That is now 2 generations ago. In fact, the Xbox 360 is about a year and a half away from, or about 2 years away from being 20 years old. So,
God, I'm old. Help.
You're the youngest here.
Yeah, and 360 was my first console. I didn't have to share it with my sisters. It wasn't the family console. It was mine.
Welcome to the linear nature of time.
Yep, I hate it. How do I get off this crazy thing?
You don't.
Fuck.
Anyway, we should probably transition into the next segment.
Yep. I guess any last comments on 360 store other than rest in peace, you crazy motherfucker?
I don't think so. I
never
never had one.
Into getting talking about some of the games, but we don't really have the time for that.
Yeah, it may be closer to when we see what if anything else won't make it over.
Yeah, I mean, we should see what we're actually going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
That hasn't already been lost, because once again, various games have been delisted. Like, for example, the sequel to Marble Blast Gold, Marble Blast Ultra, got delisted when the publisher went bankrupt and it wasn't available anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some of these that can be saved whether another group buys the IP and chooses to have them ported to new consoles.
Well, there are other preservation efforts.
Yeah, well, I'm talking more legal ones.
Right.
Because there are ways you can get these less than legal, but we're not going to go into that until post-death, at least.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably talk about this on Sunday, Mike. But more on that then.
All right.
Anyway, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. So, as the second part of our double feature, we are talking about the new Super Mario Brothers series. Right?
New in quote unquotes.
Fuck, I should have put that in there.
I mean, Nintendo doesn't put it in quotation marks, so
Valid.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just it is no longer new. Was my point.
Yeah.
I mean, this was always one of the problems of calling it the new series, the new anything. Like, new Yoshi's Island is 10 years old at this point. Like, these games were always going to get old, but because it's part of the fucking naming scheme, we still got to call them new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a problem that still persists. Like, new Pokemon.
It's slightly less of a problem than the just using the same name again without a suffix, but it's still a problem.
Pikachu, Detective Pikachu Returns is a better name than New Detective Pikachu.
Right.
Not just because accuracy.
Although new is usually used less for sequels and more for modern style reinterpretations. Like, New Super Mario Brothers is the one that I'm kind of basing this on, but New Pokemon Snap also follows, where it's like, okay, so it's the same idea as the original ones, but updated with modern technology and stuff.
They named the console New 3DS. Like, Nintendo needs to be stripped away of the word new forevermore.
Okay, the new 3DS was not a good example of it.
Like, anyway, we're talking about New Super Mario Brother. We were going to talk about this next week because of Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Mm-hmm. Which is having a direct tomorrow.
Yes.
Which is inconvenient for this show.
It's probably going to be a pre-recorded affair.
Oh, no, yeah, no, I'm just saying it's inconvenient that they're releasing it, like, about as shortly after we do a broadcast as...
Yeah. And it's also probably not going to be important enough for us to want to try and do it live.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, when was the last time we've done a live broadcast for one of these things? Genuine question.
I guess valid.
When was the last time they had an E3?
Valid.
A couple years. Like, we don't really do the live broadcast thing anymore. It was just too cumbersome.
Mm-hmm.
We could still do recorded reactions to it at some point if you wanted, but also that's not my favorite thing to do, so...
We haven't really talked about it, and we're getting off track here.
Right. Anyway, New Super Mario Brothers. They decided, hey, we've sure been doing a lot of Mario games lately, but we haven't done anything that really felt quite like the original Super Mario Brothers. So let's do a game that feels a lot like the original Super Mario Brothers, only in 3D, only with 3D graphics.
Yeah.
Motions vaguely towards the new Super Mario Brothers series.
Right. Yeah, that's where the new Super Mario Brothers series started out, specifically with the DS incarnation. That was conceived. Apparently, it was going to be the 5th advance game. Although I have questions about that Wikipedia, because exactly what was left to port. Like, Nintendo had run through all of the Super Mario games by the time of Advance 4.
Unless there was something on the Satellaview.
No. It's like...
That's the only thing I could think of.
They included lost levels in the one that was original Mario Brothers, right?
Super Mario Brothers for the Game Boy Color had lost levels, yes.
Yes.
And the Land series was, compatible with the Game Boy Advance. So
also, that would have just been New Super Mario Land Advance if they had re-released it.
So But apparently, at some point, this turned into an original effort. Like I said, probably because Nintendo realized that, oh, wait, we've already re-released all of the previous Super Mario games. They just had to create something new. And decided to make it a literal return to form.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
So back are linear orders of stages with flagpole exits and a Bowser Castle at the end of every world, and also no plot. Well, actually, no. Wait, was it the first one? Was it the first one of these that had the thing where you actually got Bowser like fucking burned to a skeleton in the first stage or whatever?
This is the debut of what's known as Dry Bowser now.
Yeah. Okay, so they gave it a little bit of a plot, but like barely.
That's every Mario game that isn't an RPG.
That's yep.
And a couple of new power-ups, which is varying degrees of cool.
No. All of the power-ups in New Super Mario Brothers are awful. Like,
yeah, you're thinking of the Wii one. The Wii one had some pretty fun ones. The original on the DS were all horrible.
Yeah,
I like the shell suit.
The shell suit was goddamn awful.
Oh, here we go again.
Like, fuck the blue shell.
I liked it. Okay.
Yeah, it was neat until you tried to run, and you got into the shell, and you couldn't jump.
I mean, the Mega Mushroom was a lame gimmick. The Mini Mushroom was a huge pain in the ass, and it was complete bullshit that it was required to unlock the alternate stages.
Yeah. And the shell was done better by the penguin suit.
Mm-hmm. I didn't say that it wasn't done better later.
Yeah. But I'm also saying that the shell suit in and of itself was awful and needed to burn. And Nintendo apparently agrees with me because they never brought that thing back.
Well, it was pretty mediocre power. It was mostly just you can slide.
Yeah. Now, something in the favor of New Super Mario Brothers DS was the boss selection. While not amazing, like, honestly, Super Mario Brothers more often than not whiffs it with its boss encounters. They're usually the weaker to weakest parts of a Super Mario game. But they were unique encounters, and Petey Piranha. Versus the later New Super Mario games, which just, it's the Koopalings again.
Mm-hmm.
Which evidently in 2009 was neat when the Koopalings were...
They hadn't been seen for a bit when they showed up in, what was it, Superstar Saga? Mm-hmm. And then they started showing up more regularly after that.
They've been MIA for almost 20 years to that point.
And then they just kept showing up. It's like the contempt of, encapsulated for the New Super Mario Brothers series in and of itself. It's like what was a neat return to form quickly became familiar and overexposed, and then contemptible.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've seen the argument, but that's just like the loud minority. No, it isn't. And I know this because Nintendo basically retired the New Super Mario Brothers series after 2012.
Mm-hmm.
We got 4 new Super Mario Brothers titles in pretty rapid succession.
Like, and what, every 2 years-ish?
Thereabouts. And keep in mind, that was alternating with the 3D Mario titles.
Mm-hmm.
When we weren't getting a new Super Mario Brothers title, we were getting Mario Galaxy, or Mario Galaxy 2, or Super Mario 3D Land, or for 2013, Super Mario 3D World. My point is, like, Mario was basically becoming a yearly series in that span of time. thanks in part to the new Super Mario Bros. Series. And unlike the 3D Mario titles, which, barring a sequel here and a, let's say, spiritual extension there, wasn't keeping up in the innovation department. Because, okay, New Super Mario Brothers, a neat throwback combining with modern Mario. Or rather, it's 2D Mario, but Mario controls like his 3D self. I think that gets lost in the conversation.
Yeah, you have the up to triple jump. You have a little bit more kickiness.
Yeah, Mario feels a lot floatier. A lot
Wall
floatier
jumping is a big one.
Yeah.
I will say that the biggest thing that annoyed me about the entire new series was the fact that they seem to have forgotten for a while that there are ways you can end stages in a Mario game besides a goddamn flagpole, which is my least favorite of all of the methods of ending the thing. And they started making it count, where if you got the top of the flagpole in post game, it would like count as like a completionist thing where you can see which ones you did it for. Until finally in fucking New Super Mario World or whatever, they finally gave up on this and had the cat suit just make it automatically climb the flagpole. So if you get to the end of the level as a cat, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that was 3D World.
3D World.
But
anyway, they forgot about the goalposts in World that built up points for a special stage, or the jumping box in 3 that got you extra lives if you matched them up, and there's just no have a flagpole.
Right. Yeah, and once again, that's part of the throwback portion of the new Super Mario Brothers. Because that goes back to the original Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, and it kind of works for New Super Mario Brothers, the first one, I guess, but then for like when they made sequels to that, they could have like varied it up.
They turned that into a competition. That's part of the competition portion of later new Super Mario Brothers games, and especially like Super Mario 3D World.
For the multiplayer ones, yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the original New Super Mario Brothers. This thing also sold about 30 million copies. So that's a big reason why we got more New Super Mario Brothers.
I mean, there definitely was an appetite for 2D Mario platforming type stuff.
Yes. It's because 2D Super Mario games are more accessible than 3D Mario titles. Simply by the nature of 3D gameplay being, in general, more complicated than 2D gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a thing we could have a bit of a conversation on, I'm sure. But, adding in that third dimension required a lot of stuff, let's just say. But, there's a reason why 2D platformers, could be done on an NES and a Super NES, but not 3D platformers until the N64. Anyway, so New Super Mario Brothers begat New Super Mario Brothers Wii, which made the stylings of New Super Mario Brothers, let's say, the feature. Like New Super Mario Brothers Wii doesn't look all that different from New Super Mario Brothers DS aesthetically. And that continues on to U and 2. And that's one of the complaints about the new series. All of the games look pretty similar to each other. I won't say 1-to-1. And not just because of resolution, because, New Super Mario Brothers U does have some art stylings like that Van Gogh level that set it apart. and 2 is more gold.
Yeah, 2's entire thing, they really went into the to an almost Wario-esque degree into the get as many coins as you can, up to the point of like a fire flower that instead of shooting fire shoots golden energy balls that turn things into coins,
Right.
and like an invincible I think there was an invincible star or something that made you just constantly drip coins, and a hat box that makes you, as you run, you produce coins from the brick on your head or whatever.
But yeah, this captures exactly why I think that the real reason the new Super Mario Brothers series fell off like it did. Not just because of the constant iterating, but the big innovation of New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and this was a legitimate innovation, was 4-player simultaneous multiplayer. You can argue about how good that actually is to play.
What's that? 4-player simultaneous elemental ogre throwing Nakatolili into the poison sludge?
But to see how much of an effect this had, New Super Mario Brothers Wonder is keeping that, and Sega's doing what Nintendo does. Like, looking at you, Sonic Stars. You cannot tell me you were not influenced by the new series here.
That hurt.
Like,
you're not wrong, but it still hurt.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's not like it was a bad thing overall. It just, they ran it into the ground really fast.
Right. I mean, once again, I think New Super Mario Bros. We sold about like 35 million copies, which is like, it's like the 3rd or 4th best-selling Wii game of all time. Yeah, I think it's. I'm trying to remember if it's New Super Mario Bros. Wii or Wii Sports Resort that's in that slot, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. Point is, like, New Super Mario Bros. Wii is, one of the best-selling Wii games of all time. So, once again, of course we were going to get more sequels. There's a lot less sales data on New Super Mario Bros. 2 and New Super Mario Bros. U. But, it should not come as a shock that, these two did not sell as nearly as much as their previous iterations. But
though by this point, they were actually having some slightly more creative power-ups.
Yeah. But that's also by virtue that the 3DS and the Wii U. I know the 3DS eventually got a pretty respectable unit sold, but in 2012, it was coming off of some rough patches.
Yeah, it was $100 too expensive, and they just announced the price drop, and people were pissed.
But there was no excuse of getting 2 new games in 1 calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just some straight up brand dilution.
That's some like PS1 era crap, where they're just pushing games out.
Yeah, like this is like Capcom levels.
Mm-hmm.
Of like Mega Man in the 2000s. I think people forget just how overexposed Mega Man was during that time period.
Oh God,
that is a rant for another time.
A possibly elemental ogre infused rant, but yes.
What, has he been ranting about that?
Not really ranting, but like he definitely knows it was a problem.
No, Ogre and I don't really talk.
Yeah, we obviously talk because raids.
Right, it's more I send him things and he doesn't talk.
Yeah, that's valid.
He used to. I don't know why he clammed up. I haven't bothered to ask, I suppose, but that's neither here nor there. Now, the new series did live on in the Mario Maker sub series, I guess, as one of the stylings of Super Mario Maker.
Mm-hmm.
But I would consider the new series essentially retired, because we did not get a fresh installment until, well, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and they're not calling it new anymore.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm pretty sure that one thing that's going to come up in the Direct tomorrow is why they're calling it Wonder instead of new.
Mm-hmm.
Because Nintendo likes that shit. You know. But, we'll get the skinny there. What we do know about Super Mario Wonder is that they are going to fix some of the overall deficiencies that showed up from New Super Mario Bros. Wii onward. Or rather, New Super Mario Bros. Wii and U. Because another thing to note about New Super Mario Bros. 2 is that was still single-player focused. That's probably down to the improved but still limited processing power of the 3DS versus the Wii and the Wii U.
Yeah. A lot of people forget how capable the 3DS itself was.
Right, but you weren't getting 4-player simultaneous multiplayer on that.
Yeah, maybe with the new 3DS, but definitely not the original model.
Yeah. But one of the big issues with New Super Mario Brothers Wii was everybody controlled the same.
Mm-hmm.
I get why they did that, but they genericized it so much that Player 3 and Player 4 were very infamously a blue and yellow Toad.
Mm-hmm.
That
because Princess was kidnapped again, and they didn't feel like putting in Yoshi or Wario, and Rosalina had barely been invented yet, I think.
Right, and Yoshi showed up in U as a rideable.
Yeah, as a mount, as usual.
But
I was just going into other characters that have been playable in games, main games in the Super Mario series.
Well, they also couldn't use Toad.
Right, because he's all the NPCs now.
Right, and they needed 2 more players, so just having Toad and somebody, they didn't really think of using somebody else or creating an original character for this slot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just still it's pure laziness, no matter how you slice it.
Right.
And the fact that they did it again doesn't make it makes it worse. They did get a bit creative with New Super Luigi U.
Mm-hmm.
But that was to replace Mario with Nabbit.
Yeah.
They did also do, I mean, in other games in the sub-series, you did get Rosalina in at least one of them, and for Clear Pipe's game, they made it so you were rescuing someone besides the princess so she could be playable.
Mm-hmm.
Point is, Super Mario Wonder has an expanded roster, including Daisy, which is kind of like the surprise inclusion this time around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer in terms of characters that were not otherwise occupied, but
I suppose.
But no, she's not like a prominent character.
She's a semi-prominent spin-off character, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't her debut, because, she's from Super Mario Land, but she hasn't really been a fixture in any, actual Super Mario game since Land.
Outside of
she's,
Party,
she's,
but
she's
yeah.
mostly been relevant as Luigi's mixed doubles partner.
Yeah. Kind of quasi pushed his love interest because we got to crowbar this in.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it's because
trying to explain reverse harem to the little kitties for Peach would be a little bit too much.
Well, it's because of the weird way Nintendo treats this shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, you know, everyone assumes that Mario and Peach are a couple, but like they're not.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you played Odyssey, yeah.
Like I said, it's this weird Disney dichotomy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even a step beyond, because, you know, like at least Disney acknowledges that like Mickey and Minnie are a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Donald and Daisy are a couple. You know, Disney princesses ostensibly have a male love interest, but nobody gives a shit about them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, point is, like, this is kind of what I'd say on the level of One Piece in terms of no hugging, no touching. You know, no kiss deals. Maybe a weird example to go with, but
well, One Piece has characters that have romantic stuff. It's just that Luffy is aggressively not interested.
Yeah. Once again, that's a whole other conversation. But, you know, it's like Oda has very distinctly noted that he's not interested in romance,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably good given how bad Shonen is at it.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we're about done with New Super Mario Brothers here.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to the end of another episode of Fragments of Silicon. So coming up on the week ahead. So we do have a new episode of Moonhawk Studios Presents happening in about 15, 30 minutes, giving travel time. And we do have an episode on Friday, September 1st. We'll be having Zoo Ethicism, Etisham. Gonna have to ask him how he pronounces that. Of Berserk Boy Games, who are developing the game Berserk Boy, which is a 2D action affair in the vein of Mega Man, specifically Mega Man X. There is a demo out for it right now, but Zoo's supposed to send footage. Sometime, you know. So that should help you, Petty. Anyway, coming up on the Sunday reviews. Again, this is a bit touch and go. But we have The Making of Karateka. Petty Fan is slated to review a game called Perfect Heist 2. That may be bumped. Mahjong Woods and Papa's Quiz. Those 3 games will be reviewed. And until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.